It's a lot happening in Haiti, and certainly the ongoing neo-colonial occupation continuing to just stalk the people of Haiti in the worst possible way. And to get into all of what's happening and more, we are very, very honored to be joined here on the show once again by Dr. Jemima Pierre, who is a professor of global race at the University of British Columbia and a member of Black Alliance for Peace. Jemima, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, we're really happy to have you and break down a lot of what's happening. And people may or may not have seen in this, so-called transitional government, a new president has assumed the rotating presidency. And the U.S. was actually tweeting recently that anyone who tries to do anything to disrupt this presidency will be held accountable in some sort of, ominous way by the United States. So just another direct intervention in the affairs of Haiti. I mean, give us a sense of what's happening here, because there's so many players and so many different sort of moving pieces here, but it does seem like in general, this is just another example that the government in Haiti is to some degree an extension of the U.S. and other regional powers.
Right. Thank you so much for talking about Haiti, because people have seem to have forgotten what's going on, except for every once in a while when the New York Times throws in a story without any context, as if what's happening in Haiti is always violence and violence is endemic to these Haitians, and as if the imperialists don't have anything to do with it. What's going on in Haiti is actually just another saga in ongoing occupation. And this occupation, of course, as I always say, began in 2004 with the US, France, Canada led coup d'etat against Haiti's democratically elected government. This occupation, of course, was consecrated by the UN with a Chapter 7 military force and occupation of Haiti, which happened, which lasted until from 2004 to 2017. And there's a UN office, this acronym is VNU, that's still in Haiti. And there's a core group that still runs Haiti. So everything that's happening, whatever violence you see, everything is under UN occupation. There's been an assassination of the president. There's been a removal of a prime minister, and then you have the core group designating who's going to be Haiti's prime minister. When he was removed after a lot of protests and so on, the U.S. with its proxies in the Caribbean, the CARICOM community, especially Mia Mottley and Irfan Ali, which is the prime minister of Barbados and Guyana. Prime ministers of Barbados and Guyana, respectively, worked together with Anthony Blinken in a room, in a hotel room in Jamaica, and basically created the Haitian government, which is a 9-person presidential council with a rotating presidency. And I think every few months you get a new president. And so what we have is a complete colonial control of Haiti, which has been under occupation. So whatever happens is under the auspices of the US, the UN. And also during this time, 2 years ago, you had the multi-security, the MSS, the security mission, where the US brought in Kenyan mercenaries who are still in Haiti at this point, under a contract paid for primarily by the US. Even though people say it's a UN mission, it's not a UN mission. It's not under UN purview. And so these people they're riding around Haiti. There's no accountability for whatever actions that they do in Haiti. So we're in a colonial occupation, a colonial situation, and so that's what's happening right now. So this new presidency is part of this 9-person council, but then you also have the rise in violence, and then of course I'm sure everyone's talking about, the New York Crimes article on Wesley Clark's mercenary group. And the missing mercenaries that were sent to Haiti in the fall, and then of course there's Erik Prince, the OG of mercenaries, especially with his work with Blackwater, and then later on, and all the trauma he caused in Iraq and West Asia, and so that's what's happening in Haiti. Haiti is really undergoing really terrible trauma, but all stems from the original moment of this coup d'etat, and then the complete control and the complete destruction of the Haitian state, the legislature, the courts, the government, the police, and then So this was by design so that you can come back, and now when there's violence, because there's, there's I forgot what's the word. There's no state, and so then when there's violence, there's no real state to control what's going on. There's a vacuum, a power vacuum. You can come in, as the New York Crimes does, and say, well, this violence has been going on for a long time, and we don't know what's going on with Haiti, and what do we need to do about Haiti.
So I want to, I want to ask you just to lay out, and I know I always ask you this when we have you on to talk about Haiti, but I think it's important to routinely establish this because Haiti isn't discussed enough. What is it that the U.S. wants out of Haiti? Why so many coups and the intentional collapsing of the state and its institutions and legislature, and the constant interventions under the cover of peacekeeping and humanitarianism? What is it that that U.S. imperialism gets out of Haiti?
That's a very good question. The U.S. has been, first of all, there's the Haitian Revolution. So let's, I think it's important to talk about this. Since 1804, where these enslaved Africans basically defeated France and the Western world and became independent. Haiti's the second independent country, but the first free country in the Western Hemisphere. And so there's been a backlash against that. Yeah, the white Western world never forgets, and they don't forgive their loss of power, and they'll do whatever. So you have that, and so you have all the media representations of Haiti. All of that comes from that revolution. But the other thing is Haiti has also fought back. Just in terms of not allowing complete capture. I think this is the most successful the U.S. has come to completely capturing the Haitian state. We're surrounded by neo-colonial countries, except for Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. All of these other states in the region are I'm talking about the Caribbean in particular, not necessarily places like Colombia fully and so on, but I'm thinking about like Jamaica, Barbados, and all these places. They are neo-colonial spaces, and Haiti has never been able. They've never been able to completely capture the country in the way that they have, where you have a pliant state, and which is why they went about completely dismantling our state and removing our democratically elected government. The other part also is Haiti is in the Windward Passage, and so it's really well located. The U.S. has always wanted this area in northwest part of Haiti called Mole Saint Nicolas, which is like a peninsula part. And if you look at the map in between Haiti and Cuba, you have this route that takes you straight to the Panama Canal, because the U.S. really wants to control that area as it prepares to go to war with China. And so it needs that area geopolitically. Haiti is a country of 12 to 13 million people. You need the cheap labor. You want to remove people from their land, which is why, despite everything that's going on, this puppet government is pushing through a referendum to change the Haitian constitution. And that's being pushed by the U.S. government and these neocons in power. And so geopolitically, Haiti's important for the U.S. because of its location. Economically, they need the cheap labor as they lose labor from Asia and so on. But also historically, Haiti has always been a thorn on the side of the white West.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm glad you mentioned this issue of a vacuum for power, because I feel like, yeah, as you said, like people always are sort of presenting this in the U.S. media like, oh, these Haitians are just so violent and they're just killing each other. But it seems to me we have sort of like a multi-sided issue when you look at both what seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of an intra-elite struggle. But then you also, of course, have people trying to defend their own communities against violence that's happening. And then you have this imposed violence of the drone war from these mercenaries as part of the neo-colonial government, and other mercenaries being brought in and other things like that. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like senseless violence to me. I mean, it seems like an extension of this power struggle over whether Haiti's going to be sovereign or not.
Oh, absolutely. And I have to say, despite whatever's happening in Haiti, the first and only solution that the West always has for Haiti is violence. right? It's always, let's send a military force. Let's send Kenyan mercenaries. Let's send, Wesley Clark and his Studebaker group. And signing contracts, Erik Prince in particular, signing contracts with an illegitimate state, an illegitimate government. This goes completely against international law. It goes against Haitian law, the Haitian Constitution. And so you're absolutely right. There's this vacuum that's open, but that's by design. And let's also talk about the arms that are coming in. With Erik Prince, the mercenary, whose sister was Trump's education secretary. People remember Betsy DeVos or something. Mm-hmm. And the only reason he can get this contract is because he's tied to the Trump government. These contracts don't just happen like that. But he's basically, he was saying all we need is 2,000 people to come into Haiti and take care of this issue. And he wants to basically take control. Remember, it was the same Erik Prince last year that said that U.S. imperialism needs to be more bold, and Africa needs to be occupied, the Latin America needs to be occupied, and so on and so forth. And and Erik Prince is basically shipping tons of, high-grade military weapons to Haiti. There's this major drone warfare. And so every time the UN, for example, which is responsible for Haiti's predicament, they'll say, well, in the past 3 months, 3,000 people have been killed. But what they don't tell you is that, 60 to 70% of these killings come from these drone attacks that, impact civilians, from the police who don't care, and anyone gets in, they're considered collateral damage. And so, yes. And so what's happening is like this nonstop violence response to a problem that actually is a problem of politics and economics and colonialism. And I think it's important to always point that out, because these stories make, they'll say Haiti has been in a spiral of violence since the assassination of the Haitian president in 2021. But before 2021, the U.S. was supporting this president in removing fuel subsidies for the people. His election is illegitimate because the Organization of American States was involved in faking his election and changing the numbers and so on and so forth. The person before him, the election results were changed by Hillary Clinton. So let's really be clear that this is a violent response to what's been happening. That's a continuation of the violence response to Haiti. And we have to actually always remember that, because what they're going to do, they're going to keep, what we see what's happening in Gaza, what's being allowed to happen in Gaza, that's going to be what's going to be allowed to happen in other places. Mm-hmm. And we have to be very clear about that, because we're just collateral damage. You can just send some mercenary into Haiti with some drones and he'll just kill a bunch of kids and nobody cares. And nobody's held accountable. And that's the problem we have. And we need to actually call the U.S. and the United Nations in particular into account for the problems that they've caused for Haiti.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you, what about people in Haiti? They're never really mentioned except in the context of we have to go save them, and that's why Erik Prince is sending drones. But I imagine, people in Haiti have opinions on this. I imagine there's some sort of movements in Haiti that are pushing against U.S. imperial aggression. And of course, what can people in the U.S. do when it comes to U.S. intervention in Haiti?
Well, what people need to do is to tell their government to really stop this this nonstop intervention. They're the ones selling. They're the ones. The equipment, the military equipment that's coming to Haiti is coming primarily from the U.S. Right, and it's not equipment to help, for example, the Haitian police. It's equipment that gets taken at the ports and so on. And so we really need people to deal with that. What's happening in Haiti is you do have a lot of people who think people are so desperate because the armed groups have wreaked so much havoc in the popular neighborhoods, have pushed the displacement of so many people to the countryside, because a vast majority of the capital city, Port-au-Prince, has been overrun by armed groups, which keep getting stronger because they're recruiting young people. Mm. There are no jobs, there are hardly any jobs. There's no security. And so people are afraid, and some people are saying, well, we'll take anything. But I do think that's purposeful, right? You create the conditions for people to actually beg for oppressors to come and save them. But local groups are against this. They know that the imperialists are behind this. There are a lot of local groups around, but they're also being marginalized. These same local groups are against the armed groups. Remember, these armed groups were armed originally by the elite in the country, to go take care of like their enemies, or to go by the elite and by the former presidents, right? To squash dissent and so on. And so now these armed groups have gotten out of control. The local people, there are two responses. One of them is like, we need all the help we can get. But the other response is, we need the U.S. to stop manipulating what's happening in Haiti. And we need a different kind of solution. We actually need more conversation, to be honest, without the U.S. pushing certain things. And I also have to say, the U.S. is going, Trump and his racist ICE, machine, deporting people left and right. So on the one hand, they're stopping Haitians from coming in. Haiti is one of the many countries that the U.S. has basically stopped from coming, banned from coming into the country. But they're deporting Haitians, and then they're saying Haitian is a security risk for the U.S. And what people in the U.S. need to understand is that the U.S. is the reason that there's a security risk in Haiti. And we need to really keep holding, these politicians and the U.S. government accountable. No story about Haiti should be written without always pointing out that what's happening in Haiti is a result of the France, U.S., Canada coup d'etat and the continued U.S. control and destruction of the Haitian state.
Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate you being willing to join us, Dr. Jemima Pierre, professor of global race at the University of British Columbia and also with Black Alliance for Peace. Thanks so much for joining us here on the Freedom Side.
Thanks so much for having me.